Hey YouTube, Parson Rick here. Sunday afternoon, early evening. Getting my pipe ready here. Been kind of a day. We finally hitting fall here in Eugene. And had some rain today. It's been off and on. You know, the leaves are all turning color. Got the yellows and the reds and the oranges and got quite a bit of it. You can't see too much. We just had a real windstorm here, and here we're back. Just had a real windstorm here, and leaves all come jumping down on us. So it's been real pretty. As Chris and I went out Friday looking for some property, trying to find some property that we saw advertised, never did find it. But we did find the coolest thing. Chris is a Pioneer Cemetery buff, mentioned it before, and you know, getting that puppy lined up again. And we were down looking for this property, and along the highway on I-5, there's this, right before one of the exits, there's this old yellow farmhouse. This was there way before the interstate was built. The interstate was built when I was in 8th grade, so you know, it hasn't been all that long. The very last of the GLP's Odyssey. So it's not going to be much of a bowl. That's okay. I smoked quite a bit yesterday. My tongue's a little tender. Had both pipe and cigar yesterday. It's very unusual for me. Where was I? Oh, Big Yellow House. Yeah. And yeah, I had no idea how to get there because it's on the other side of the highway from the road. So we were looking for this property, and driving down the road it said it was on, which it's not at all. Nowhere near. Yeah, that's all I got, about half. Anyway, but we're driving down this road and we see a little blurb underneath the railroad trellis, and it says, "To the cemetery." We're always up for checking out a cemetery, and it went right up there by this yellow house. It also blurped under the highway. So we go up there, and you know, it's one of those good ones that are through a cattle gate and everything. Got a lockup behind you. Make Chris jump out. I'm a country boy. I was raised jumping out of the dang truck. Anyway, her turn. So we went up there and went in there, and she's wandering all around looking at every headstone. And I generally go look at the old ones that you can't hardly make out. And you know, we live in Oregon, so there hasn't been people who make cemeteries here all that long. Well, I noticed there was a whole bunch of the white military, the veteran ones up there. And usually around here you don't see the white military headstones in a civilian cemetery. So that was interesting. So I started looking at them. Here we go. Skipton and I did forget to put that screen in there. Just dawned on me when I sucked up some detritus. Anyway, so I looked around and I was sitting next to one of the white ones on a bench because, you know, I'm crippled up and she was out scurrying about looking around, and I sat down next to one and I was reading it. The guy was from the Spanish-American War. I don't think I had ever seen in Oregon a headstone for a guy from the Spanish-American War. How cool is that? And I started looking around. That got me kind of interested because he was here, and here was a Vietnam vet, right? And over here was a Gulf War vet. And so I started looking around. There was flags. Somebody was very diligent about putting the flags out, you know, last May. And they'd been blown in and blown down and blown around because it was up on top of a hill. It was pretty windy up there. But it was a good pioneer cemetery. It had massive trees and roots and, you know, the ever-present ground squirrels that dig down into the graves. We were at one several years ago, and we were watching ground squirrels go down into their burrows, into the graves, and coming out with cloth, and then running over to another one, and coming back out of it without the cloth. Gonna mess up some archaeologists someday, I guess. But anyway, so I'm up there and I started looking around, and this cemetery, I would say, was 1/3 veterans. And now this is a little tiny cemetery, maybe no more than 200 headstones, no more than, in the middle of nowhere, up on a hill behind a cattle gate. And for our area, you get a couple, in the pioneer cemeteries, there might be a couple of veterans headstones. Well, pretty soon else, they're everywhere. And, you know, and there's flags everywhere. And I start looking around, and there are Gulf War, Vietnam, Korea, and multiple Korean veterans, multiple World War II, World War I, Spanish-American War. Then there was a Civil War veteran, and then there was a really, really old white, almost all dissolved, and I had never seen one of these in my life. He was a veteran of the Cherokee Wars. And I thought, the Cherokee Wars, holy cow. When was that? I remember this is Oregon. We became a state in 1876, something like that, because we had our centennial about the time I graduated high school. So, and people came out here on the Oregon Trail in the late 1830s. My ancestors got here in the 1840s. But the Cherokee Indian Wars, and you know, one of my great grandmas was on the Trail of Tears, and so that was very interesting to me, and I'd never heard of it, but it sounded like it would be something Trail of Tears time, War of 1812 time, Andrew Jackson time, and so I looked it up, and the Cherokee Indian Wars were from 1758 to 1761. the guy that was buried up there had to be one of the first settlers in Oregon, much less in that area. And I thought that was just uber cool. And which is not to mean it's as cool as an Uber. It's Uber as in super. Hate preempting words. Anyway, and it was just the coolest little serendipitous historical find. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of people that know it's up there, but I did not. I'd driven by it my whole entire life and didn't know it. Yeah. And then like I said, it was on a mountainside, and you parked on this one landing, and they had a little shelter there where you could have a picnic or something, I suppose, or a little ceremony. And then it went up a hill, and there was another landing. And I drove up there because we were looking for property, and I told my wife, I said, okay, so if you could build here, and she goes, oh, I'd love to live right here. She'd be every day, she'd be out there working in the cemetery. Her ideal is to have a house attached to a pioneer cemetery. It'd be awesome if it was, you know, relatives, but I don't think, she doesn't seem to have a lot of ancestors that have been in Oregon long enough to be in that. I do, but as a matter of fact, my dad and my brother are buried in pioneer cemeteries here. But anyway, so it was just a pretty cool day. Had a nice excursion. And oh my goodness, 12 minutes. Sorry. I have so much more to tell you, but I will save it for another time. Because I know that if the time on the video is too long, you won't even click on it. Well, you will, because you're still here, right? But the other guy, he won't even give me a shot. That's too long. 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Who are you to rule my life like this? So, I apologize, and I really appreciate you hanging out this long. God bless you. Parson Rick out.